And how you guys doing? This is very important to charge Ronald Ray with attempts of murder and anybody else that's conspiring with him. I don't know if he faked his death or what, but this fucking satellite controller tried to ask me things about Ronald Ray because either Ronald Ray faked his death or he died or whatever. But the satellite man's hitting me in the mouth, and he just said something. He just communicated something about Ronald Ray and tried to blame me for anything about Ronald Ray. Never hung out with him. I lived in California. There's phone calls recorded about Ronald Ray calling out to California. He was obviously tied with the FBI that was trying to kidnap me from California. And they even said they were spying on me at LAX Airport. Check to see if my father owned LAX Airport or if my father built LAX Airport. That would mean I'm the owner if that's true. But look that information up. But this fucking satellite controller he's been torturing me, trying to blame me for Ronald Ray's death, or trying to blame me for Ronald Ray faking his death, or the fact that whatever shit game they've tried to play, if Ronald Ray's involved in harassing me or accusing me or trying to frame me or trying to murder me or trying to steal from me. Now, over on Gladstone Street and Washington Street, my mother, Doris Duke, owns some property over there. And they were holding me hostage in that house on Gladstone Street back in the 80s. And my mother, Doris Duke, had bought property around there. And I'm not sure if it was the yellow and brown house across the street, but we stayed in the double on the other side where they were holding me hostage. And I guess my mother, Doris Duke, is my mother, and my father's Walt Disney, right? You guys have that on record? What does the Royal Protocol say? Because that's who my parents are. Had handed him, or told him instructions to hand me the money. My mother had, I guess it was $100,000 or something. And he ended up stealing the money, or somebody else stole the money, or he gave the money to Frank Sinatra or something. I'm not quite sure how much of the story might be what it is. But Ronald Ray can still be brought up on charges of that $100,000, if that's what it was, stolen over on Gladstone and Washington Street. And don't forget, all you dirty government people, there is no statute of limitations of prosecuting you for the murder of my mother and father. You guys know that, right? My parents was forever rich. You know that, right? And I was born forever rich. So any monies you're blocking me from, or any of your domestication games, such as you wanted to see somebody else's, somebody else that came from a rich family, you wanted to see them slave, is what you wanted to say or something, right? Or that's what you were trying to do. Well, see, there's laws in reference to government or thieves trying to control a rich person's teeth or life or beauty, such as people trying to enslave somebody else's child. Now, don't forget, back in the years when they had kidnapped me and held me hostage in Union City and Richmond, Indiana, I was held hostage over there too. Check to see if my mother, Doris Duke, bought those properties. Because a lot of times wherever they held me hostage, my mother would buy the houses sometimes where they were holding me hostage. Like she'd contact like the landlord and then she'd buy the property. Check that information out. In reference to any of the properties where I was held hostage at, see if Doris Duke had bought any of those properties in the timeline or whatever, But this situation of this satellite man was trying to claim, well, I guess Ronald Ray made up a bunch of shit slandering my character or something. Never had nothing to do with him. Now, Ronald Ray supposedly had a drug history. I don't know. I guess he did crack or something, or he was involved in drugs or whatever. I have no clue. But these drug enforcement agents was working with Ronald Ray, and they had kidnapped me from California, and they were working probably with Frank Sinatra. And Frank Sinatra was hiding out in Indianapolis because he had a lot of relatives in Indiana or something. And Frank Sinatra was one of the people that called my mother, I guess, and demanded ransom money. Now, you know, when Frank held me hostage over on Midhofer Street back in the 80s, early 80s or whichever, he was trying to make me eat dog food, like making me sit on he pushed me down on the floor and made me eat dog food out of the dog food bowl over on Midhofer and Ellis Street, you know. And because Frank gambled all his money away or whatever he fucking did. My parents and I had nothing to do with any of Frank's expenditures. So no matter what the dirty son of a bitch says, he has to be brought up on charges of previous history of crimes and inhumane treatment and abuses of a hostage when he had held me hostage, and him and his people had held me hostage on Midhofer Street and Ellis Street back in the late 70s or early 80s. And anybody else that's trying to challenge anything about me or picking on me or bullying me, they must be charged for bullying, attempts of murder, financial crimes, and anything else. But I guess Ronald Ray and his FBI buddies are this. There was a guy called, his name was Lieutenant Flack. I guess he worked in the Indianapolis Police Department. He was trying to murder me too. And then there was a Kevin Kraft and a John Showman and a Harry J. Rail or something. And they were all trying to murder me. They were all trying to rape me or something. And they were all trying to slander my character. Have nothing to do with none of them. If any of them have harassed me or stolen from me or injured me, they must get prosecuted for 100% manslaughter crimes and attempts of murder. No matter who they are, I have nothing to do with none of their shit. And they fucked up my face. They fucked up my teeth. I've never had a criminal record. I was born with Royal Diplomatic Immunity. And I'm always going to have Royal Diplomatic Immunity. And it can be used against any person harassing me, abusing me, stealing from me, and slandering my character. Anything that they have tried to do. My status is a birth status. It's not an elected status. It's not an appointed status by government. It's a factual birth status. And it's in the Royal Protocol, too, in the media, 24 hours a day. So, in reference to any of these satellite controllers that fucked up my teeth, or any of these government people that have put their hands on me, you know you couldn't touch my father, and you know you couldn't touch my mother in any legal way ever. And you must be charged for what you did to my parents. Now, you know, my parents, pretty famous, very wealthy, owned a lot of land, too. And you knew you did not have a right touching them. And I'm the only child of my parents. So you would fucking know you don't have a right touching me either. And you have to get prosecuted for every goddamn physical violation. Because I ain't going to tolerate no goddamn physical abuse, motherfucker, or any mutilations. You can get put on trial for the death penalty or life in prison.